Hello, and welcome to the course. This is Gaston College's Bio 161 course for the spring 2020 semester. I'll be your instructor, Dr. Jason Moyer. Even though the course title is Intro to Human Biology, what this course really is an introduction to basic human anatomy and physiology. So we will cover a good amount of material throughout this course. So I highly recommend that you keep up with the material on a daily basis. In this video, what we'll do is we'll go over how the course is organized, how the course is set up, how you access all your assignments, how you submit everything. So odds are really high if you have a question about the course, how it works, or just in general, the answer to that question will be found either in the syllabus or in this video, or perhaps both. So first we'll get into how the course will look when you log into it. Alright, this is how the course will look once you log into Blackboard. This is an online course, so you will definitely need to have access or reliable access to a reliable internet connection, whether that be on your laptop or desktop or tablet. Really don't recommend using a phone, especially for assignments, but that is doable if that's your only option. But I would more recommend a desktop or a laptop. This is how the login screen will look when you first log in. Mine will look a little bit differently than yours since I'm the instructor, but this will give you good impression of how things should look. The first page that you'll see is the welcome screen, and all of the announcements will be listed here. Of course, right now there's only this welcome to the course brief message here. I'll be writing a much longer one later this evening, and that will be available on the first day of class on Monday the 13th. I would get into the habit of checking the Blackboard announcements at least once every other day, if not once every day, because this is where all the announcements will be placed about the course in general, about certain exams, certain major assignments. I will also email out the announcements I post here, but just get into the habit of checking this on a regular basis so you don't miss anything that's important. And all the announcements will be kept here on this page. I won't delete any messages, so when I add a new message on top of this, it will be placed on top of this one. So everything will be kept in a sequential order. So the older messages will be at the bottom, the newer messages will be put on top. All the links that you need will be here on the left. We'll cover most of these, not every one of these, but we'll cover most of them in this video. Alright, first we'll start off with course information. Alright, on this page you will find the course syllabus, the course schedule, grading policy, participation policy, and some other details about working with a certain software that you'll need. But we'll start off with the course syllabus. So the link is right here. And here is the course syllabus. This is a pretty standard format for all course syllabi here at Gaston College, at least for the Arts and Science Division. Course title of the course, Bio 161, in our semester 2020. My name, my phone numbers, both in my office, in my main office at the Roush building, and then my cell phone. This is my email, moyer.jason@gaston.edu. My office location, if you ever do need to speak to me in person, Roush 216, that's on the Dallas campus, the main campus of the school. If you have questions, I encourage you to either email me or text me. That way there's a record of you contacting me and a record of me responding back. Email is a good way, and text is probably the fastest way. So you can use this number here to call, and most students will use that to text. Course description is a basic survey of human biology. We'll talk about various medical terminology terms. We'll talk about the different body systems and how they work with one another. Now here we will go over some of the key points of the syllabus, but I strongly encourage you to read throughout the entire syllabus, not just the parts that we go over here in this video, but take the time to go over all of it. Learning outcomes, what you should be expected to know how to do by the time this course is over. See, it's a 3 credit hour class. There is no lab component to this. Of course, this is an online course, so everything will be delivered online through Blackboard. If you have a problem getting to Blackboard or not sure how to do so, go ahead and contact Tech Services on the Gaston College campus sooner than later, because everything that you need will be done through the online portal. Course materials, the textbook, Essentials of Human Anatomy, Physiology, the 12th edition by Elaine Marieb, and then online software, Modified Mastering, A&P. Almost every assignment that you'll do in this entire semester, all of them except the very, very first one, is done through this software package. So this is a vital piece of your coursework. You have to be able to access this properly, and I'll discuss that more in detail in a few moments. One thing I'll mention here about Chromebooks. Chromebooks use the Chrome operating system. It doesn't really work all that great when it comes to Blackboard. I would personally recommend Mozilla Firefox. That's been probably the most stable browser that I've seen with my experience with Blackboard. When it comes to doing an assignment, especially a major test, like a midterm exam or a final exam, really recommend that you don't do those on the tablet or phone. Recommend you do that with a desktop or a laptop. Student technology resources. There are computer labs throughout all the campuses at Gaston College, so there's no excuse for you not being able to access this course. And this part is in bold for a very important reason. Not having the software that you need or not accessing the internet is no excuse for you not to turn in your work. This is an online course. It is a reasonable expectation to assume that you are going to have access to the internet. Everything will be done online. If you don't have reliable access at your home or at where you work, there are computer labs on every single campus at the college. So there's no reason to not be able to access a computer somewhere to be able to turn in your work. All right, next we'll go on to course details. The class attendance and participation. The college policy is you must be an active participant in the class at least 90% or more of the time. If you are not active in a course like this, you will quickly fall behind. And if you get a little bit behind, you're going to get way behind really, really quickly. So if you aren't an active participant in the class, you aren't going to do well anyway. So when it comes to participation, if you are not active on a regular basis, instructors have the right to remove you from the course. All right, withdrawal process. It is the college policy that if you are not active for 21 calendar days, not 21 class days, but calendar days, you will be removed from the course. If you want to withdraw from the class, it is up to you to withdraw. Don't just assume that, well, I won't go to class anymore, I won't do any work, that Dr. Moyer will withdraw you. That's not my responsibility. That is yours as the student. And this point here is in bold and in red for an important reason. The last day to withdraw from a course this semester is April 15th. If you are on a roster after that point, you have to get a grade in that course, either A, B, C, D, or F. If you try to withdraw after that deadline, you automatically get an F. If I try to withdraw you after that deadline, you automatically get an F. There's plenty of time between now and this deadline, but when we get closer to that deadline, if you aren't sure whether or not you should stick around or drop the class, please talk to me as soon as you can. Because after that deadline passes, I can't do anything about it. So you have to get a grade at that point. All right, next we'll get into how the course will be graded. All right, the final grades are going to be determined by the sum of all points earned on various categories of assignments. We'll talk about that in a second. This first point here, I put in red and in bold because it's important. Even though this is the first week of class, there are assignments that are due, and that is a college policy. For any online course that is strictly online, there has to be an assignment completed within the first week of the course. If you don't do this assignment, you will be withdrawn from the class. For this course, the assignment that you will have to do is the discussion board Icebreaker. And this has to be submitted before midnight on Sunday, January 19th. And again, failure to do so will have you being removed from the course. And all this is like all icebreakers, it's an introduction of you to the rest of the class and to me. And I'll show you where that is when we get to the Blackboard layout. So it doesn't have to be anything terribly long, just 2 or 3 sentences about you, why you're taking the class, any concerns you may have about the class. But again, this has to be submitted between when the class starts on Monday the 13th and is due before Sunday the 19th. All right, every week we will cover one chapter within the textbook. There'll be a chapter quiz, and also will be a chapter study module. Those will be due each week for every single chapter. The study modules will be due by Friday nights before midnight, and the quizzes will be due by Sunday nights. And the quizzes are only made available from Friday until Sunday. On 12:01 a.m. on Friday mornings, that's when the quiz will be posted for that week. You have all day Friday to take it, all day Saturday to take it, all day Sunday to take it. And after the deadline of 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, that quiz will be taken down and you won't be able to access it anymore. So those are 2 days to remember, Sundays and Fridays. Fridays, study modules are due. Sundays, the quizzes are due. And there are a few exceptions to the schedule, and I'll mention that when we go over the schedule in detail in a moment. And you must complete at least one assignment a week to be considered an active participant. If you don't submit multiple modules in a row, multiple quizzes in a row, you aren't going to do well anyway in the class. But that's what is considered being an active participant, actually submitting certain assignments, actually logging in to Blackboard. When it comes to the various categories of assignments, they are all listed here. There are 13 chapter quizzes, because we'll cover 13 chapters. Those are 75 points each. Every chapter has a study module. Those are going to be 20 points each. You have the midterm exam, the final exam, that discussion board icebreaker, and then something that we'll do at the tail end of the course. It's called the GEO project, the General Education Outcome Project. And I will give you more information about that probably in late March, early April. So all this will total a possible 2,000 total points. The grading scale, this is a standard grading scale for all classes in the Arts and Science Division. We use a 10-point grading scale here. So an A would be 90% to 100%, B 80 to 89, and so on. Makeup policy. My policy is, because this is an online course, because you'll get the schedule of every single assignment that you'll have due the semester given to you multiple times, and we'll go over that here briefly. There is no excuse for not turning in any scheduled assignment. If there's an excused absence, that's one thing, but just because you forget to do it, well, that's too bad. You cannot make up any unexcused absence. And I do not accept late work. There are no extra credit possibilities either. If you have the full schedule available to you on the first day of the course, you should know when exactly things are due, so there's no excuse to not have them turned in properly. All right, viewing grades. All of your grades will be posted on Blackboard within 24 hours of them being due. So I like to turn around grades pretty quickly when it comes to my classes. All right, course schedule. Chapter 1, the human body and orientation. Then Chapter 2 is basic chemistry. Chapter 3, cells and tissues. Chapter 5, skeletal system. Chapter 6, muscular system. Chapter 7, nervous system. Then we will have our midterm exam. Our midterm exam will cover everything we've covered up to that point. So chapters 1 through 7. After the midterm, we go on to the second part of the course. Chapter 9, endocrine system. Chapter 10, blood. Chapter 11, cardiovascular system. Chapter 13, respiratory system. 14, digestive system and body metabolism. 15, urinary system. And then Chapter 16, reproductive system. Then we will have our final. Our final exam is not cumulative. It covers everything from the midterm on. So basically Chapter 9 to 16. So you can think of this as another midterm just at the end of the course. So again, the final is not cumulative, only the second part of the course. Another important information, right where you clicked on the link to open the syllabus, there's a box that says Mark as Read. By checking this box, you are agreeing to the terms that are laid out in the syllabus. So that's why I say take the time to read through the syllabus, because this is really a contract between you and me. You can't go back later and say, well, I didn't know that I couldn't drop the midterm. I didn't know that I couldn't do this or do that. By checking this box, you are agreeing to all the policies that are described in the syllabus. All right, next part of the syllabus, the policies, procedures, best practices. And like I said, we won't go over every little thing here, but we will cover some of the more important ones. So first thing we'll talk about students' rights and responsibilities. The rights that you have to expect from this class. See, the first one, on the first day of class, the instructor will provide students with a course syllabus that includes course objectives, grading policies, and classroom policies. That's what we're doing here with this video. Assignments will be graded and returned in a timely manner. It says 1 week here. I like to do it within 1 day. What I have as your instructor to expect from you, students, you will read the syllabus and ask for clarification if anything is needed. You will submit assignments on time and independently, which means you do your own work. You aren't relying on other people to do your work for you. And then students will obtain and use the required text as stated in the syllabus. See, another thing I'll mention here, the SEAP, the Student Emergency Assistance Program. If there are things that come up in your life that are preventing you from doing well in the class, maybe there's an unexpected financial hardship, and you can't get the textbook, and you can't get the software package. There is a fund that the college runs to help students with emergency situations like this. So if you think that this may be something that you could use, the phone number is listed here. Please feel free to contact them. Student behaviors. Even though this is an online class, there will be interactions with each other on Blackboard. This has never been an issue for me in the past, but if you are being disruptive, if you are preventing other students from learning or doing their best, you will be removed from the course. See, academic dishonesty. This covers the various forms of cheating, as the college explains. Fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, being complicit in dishonesty, and so on. Basically, what all this boils down to is do your own work and don't cheat. If it's found that you have been cheating, not only will you be kicked out of the class, you'll be kicked out of the college. So if you are planning to go on to a program later on after this course, it's going to be almost impossible to get accepted to a program if you've been found guilty of cheating or thrown out of a course. So it just is not worth it at all. All right, next, academic complaints. If you have concerns or complaints about the class or about me, hopefully neither one, but just in case, there are ways that you can handle that. You can contact my bosses, the chair of the science department, Dr. Armstrong. That's her phone number, her email, and her office location. And then her boss, the dean of the Arts and Science Division, Ms. Broom, her office location, her phone number, her email. See next, the ADA statement. If you have a need for an accommodation when it comes to the class, we have to have that approved by the college before instructors can do anything. It doesn't matter if you've had it at your previous school. You can't just tell me the day of a quiz or the day of an exam, oh wait, I have an accommodation, I need such and such. That's not going to help you at all, because legally I can't do anything at that point. If you think that you have a need for an accommodation, then you're encouraged to contact our counselors at this phone number here, and then they will evaluate you. If you are approved for an accommodation, then instructors are notified at that point. I can't do anything to help you with accommodations until I get approval from the college first. All right, so like I said, we didn't cover every little thing in the syllabus, but I wanted to cover the main ones, especially how the course is going to be graded and our generic course schedule. And again, here's where it says mark reviewed. So as you are going through this, if you agree to all the policies, make sure that you go ahead and click that, and then I'll be notified that you have read the syllabus and you agree to it. Next thing we'll get into is the course schedule. On this page is every assignment that you'll have for the entire course. So there's no excuse to not know when something is due. So even though this is the first week of class, there are some things that are due. And I mentioned a little bit ago that the days that you should always keep in mind are Fridays and Sundays. Study modules are due by Friday nights, and the quizzes are due by Sunday nights. Well, there are some exceptions to that schedule, and this first week of the course is an exception to that. I pushed everything back so everything is due on Sunday night. So the Icebreaker, the study module, and the quiz are all due before 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, January 19th. If you try to start one of these assignments at that time, it's going to shut down and lock you out of it. So that doesn't mean start the assignment at this time. That means it must be completed and submitted by that time. So every module is listed here, every quiz is listed here. There are some gaps in the schedule due to certain breaks that we have for spring break and Easter break and so on. Those are already in effect here. The Geo project, like I said, you'll get information about this probably late March, early April, and they'll be due on before the last day of the course, May 7th. The final exam, I mentioned it would be available on May 8th at 4 p.m. It'll be due before May 11th, just before midnight. So you have several days in order to submit that. All right, next, these next 2 points, the grading policy and the participation policy, these are taken directly from the syllabus, but they are just more isolated with their own document. So again, none of this text that's here is anything different than what we've seen already in a syllabus. I just have to have them isolated on their own. Same thing with the participation policy. All the text is exactly the same as the syllabus. It's just more isolated so you can have access to it. And the rest, this is some information about how to formally get started with mastering A&P, which we'll get into in a few moments. All right, that's all the information that we will go over for the course information. Next, information about me. Again, this is my contact information, my email here, phone number. Usually texting is probably the most effective way to reach me. Office location. My office hours, in case you do need to come by, I encourage you to make an appointment. That way you know for certain I'll be in my office at that time and not at some random meeting. Then a little bit of background on me here. Next thing we'll go over are the lecture notes. All of the notes will be listed here and in advance. So right now there are 3 chapters of notes already available, and they are all in a PowerPoint. So they're all broken up by individual chapter. So if you look at, say, chapter 1, you'll see the link here. And I will post notes like this in advance throughout the entire semester. So right now there are 3 chapters available. When we are in chapter 3, I'll put up the next link of the next 2 or 3 chapters. So the notes will be available to you the entire time. All right, something else I've done is here, lecture videos. This is broken down in the same way as the lecture notes were. But what I've done here is I've included links to lectures I would give on these individual chapters, just like I would if this was a seated class. And I do that for a particular reason. I know a lot of people can just read lecture notes and be fine with it, but a lot of people need to have information like this explained to them. So what I've done is I've recorded lectures over these PowerPoints as if we were having a traditional seated course. So it doesn't matter to me if you do the videos, if you just do the PowerPoints, or if you do both. Whatever works best for you. But both of these are going to be options throughout the entire course. And one thing I will mention when it comes to these videos, I'm in the process of updating some of the formats to the PowerPoints. So there are going to be some chapters where the layout of the PowerPoints will be different than what is in the notes that are posted. The content is exactly the same. The material is not anything different at all, but how the PowerPoint looks, how the backgrounds are laid out, the color schemes that are used, I'm in the process of updating a lot of these. Some chapters, they'll be exactly the same, but some chapters, they're going to be completely different. But again, the content is exactly the same, because you'll see that with chapters 1, 2, and 3, I believe. If you look at the PowerPoints that are posted, they look differently than the ones that you'll see in these links. But the content is exactly the same. All right, Mastering AP, we'll get to that in a moment, because we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. Discussion board. All right, on here, there's going to be a thread for every single chapter that we will cover, in addition to a thread for general class questions. If you have a question about the class, odds are someone else in the class has the same question. So you may want to post it here as opposed to me being emailed half a dozen times. And here's where you will put your icebreaker. Again, to talk about a little bit about you, your name, where you're from, why you're taking the class, any concerns you have about the class. And I don't need a 1,000-word essay, but just 2 or 3 sentences about you. Again, this is something that is required to be done before Sunday the 19th, before midnight. And as we go through these chapters in this course, if you have questions about a certain chapter, make sure that you're posting your question in that chapter. So let's say you have a question about chapter number 7. Don't put it in the thread for chapter number 2. The next big thing we'll talk about is mastering A&P. And before we get into all the details on how it works, how it's laid out, where you need to go to do certain tasks, there are always some issues that come up with mastering A&P, and primarily in how to access it and how to log into it. So we'll go over those issues first, then we'll come back to this page where we will log into the software itself, and I'll show you around some key features there. We'll go over some of those issues first here now. Alright, first of all, mastering A&P is required for this course. Now, every study module is done through mastering A&P. Every chapter quiz is done through mastering A&P. Your midterm and your final are all based from mastering A&P. So you must have an access, or you must be able to log in and use that software correctly. Because if you don't, you're not going to do well in the course. Secondly, you will need an access code to log in and to use mastering A&P. Now, students fall into one of 3 categories typically when it comes to this software. 1, you bought a brand new textbook from the bookstore on campus and it has the access code with it. Or you bought a new textbook from the bookstore and it doesn't have the access code. Or 3, you have either rented the book or you bought the book from someplace other than our bookstore. Kindle, Amazon, so on. So we'll go over what you need to do in each of these situations. Alright, first, if you bought the new textbook from our bookstore and it has access code, then you are fine. You don't need to do anything. Just make sure that you're able to log in to Mastering A&P, but you log in from Blackboard. Do not go through the publisher's website. Log in from Blackboard, because all you need is the access code that's given to you within the book. If you don't log in from Blackboard directly, I won't see that you have completed the work. And if I don't see that you've done it, then I'm going to assume that you didn't, and you'll get a 0. Alright, second, this is the one that's the most involved. If you bought a brand new textbook from the bookstore and it doesn't have the access code, you can return it for one that does have the code. But you must have the receipt in order to exchange the books, because you cannot exchange the books without one. If you bought the book using your financial aid, your receipt can be looked up through a database, even if you don't have your paper receipt. Make sure that when you're getting the new book, that it says Modified Mastering A&P. If it doesn't have the word modified in it, then you're getting something different. So you must be using Modified Mastering A&P. If you don't have the receipt, then you must buy an access code from the publisher directly. There's no way I can get around that. But if you use financial aid to buy it, your receipt can be looked up. But if you pay it out of pocket, or if you can't find a receipt, you have to purchase it from the publisher directly. And scenario number 3, you either rented the book or you bought it from somewhere else other than the Gaston College bookstore, then you must buy the access code from the publisher. And there are 2 formats you can buy it in. One comes with an electronic textbook, and one doesn't. It depends on what you want. The one that has a textbook is a little more expensive than the one that doesn't, but of course you're getting more information and more resources. Okay, now that we've gone over some of the main issues when it comes to mastering, we'll go into the software itself. When you click on the link, this is what you'll see. Whenever you are accessing Mastering A&P, you need to be logged into Blackboard first. Go here to the course home. Now again, keep in mind that my layout will be a little bit different than yours, since I'm the instructor. This will give you at least a good idea of where things are. Course name will be up here on top, Spring 2020, Bio 161, then my last name, Moyer. We get to the schedule assignments. In this section, you will have every assignment that's listed from Mastering A&P here. And the only assignment that we will do that's not done through Mastering A&P in the entire semester, like I mentioned before, is the very, very first one, that discussion board icebreaker. Everything else that you will do, all the modules, every quiz, every exam, the geo project, everything will be done from Mastering A&P. So there are 2 ways you can look at this, either in the calendar view like this, or in a list view. And one thing I'll point out, this assignment here where it says Introduction to Mastering A&P, it's listed as a homework assignment. It is not an assignment, it's a tutorial. So if you've never used Mastering A&P, if you aren't terribly comfortable with an online course, then definitely take the time to look at this. It's not graded, it's a tutorial. Alright, here the 13th is the first day of class here. The 19th, When you hover over each of these assignments, it tells you when things are due and if they are available. The study module tells you when it is due. All the study modules are available right now and will be available all semester, but they are due by certain deadlines as their assignment. So if we are in Chapter 15 and you want to go back and review a study module from Chapter 2, you can go back and do that. But when it comes to when they are due for a grade, that is part of this schedule. So everything is listed here, all the quizzes, all the exams, Geo project, and so on. So again, you have another place where every assignment that you need is listed. So no excuse at all for not knowing when something is due, because it's listed in multiple locations. So I would get into the Mastering A&P software as soon as you can, so you can get a feel for it, because you'll be spending an awful lot of time using Mastering A&P. A few of the things I'll point out here. eText. Alright, that link for the eText takes you to this. This is nothing more than an electronic version of the physical textbook. Some people may prefer to have the electronic version. Some people may prefer to have a tangible book with them. But there are various ways you can move around the book. There are some special features. You can go chapter by chapter. There are ways to help you study. Study area. This is a good location to get more practice when it comes to the material. You can break it down by chapter. There are various reading quizzes you can take, chapter quizzes you can take, interactive animations and videos. So it's a good resource to look at if you think that you need some more help, or if you're just interested in the topic. So again, I strongly encourage you to get into the Mastering A&P portal as soon as you can. You can kind of poke around and get a feel for where everything is. Don't wait until Sunday afternoon when things are going to be due a couple hours later. And again, if you have questions on this, please let me know. Alright, that brings us to the end of this video. Again, if you have questions about this course, the answer is probably going to be found either in this video or in the course syllabus, or probably both. If you still don't know the answer to your question, feel free to contact me, and then good luck through the semester.